In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to create a two-column template from scratch in HTML. So the first thing we want to do, we want to make sure to define your site, make sure you have your name on your site. And I'm going to go ahead and again, if you haven't defined the site, you basically want to choose Site, Manage Site. And if it's new, you create new site. If it's an existing one, you can just click edit, and you want to make sure it's pointing to the correct folder. This part is very, very important. If you don't do this part correctly, basically your files are not going to work and your links will be broken. You also want to make sure that if you change the name of your folder to redirect to tell Dreamweaver where the new location of the file is, or the new file title is. And again, I'm just going to choose File New, HTML, Create, and the first page I'm just going to call this index. That's the very first page of my document. It's going to make sure it's going to the correct place. Save. And also give your document a name. So welcome to Elise and Hari website, for example. And here is the only place that you can actually use special characters. The very first div that we need to create, it's going to be a container div. This div is going to contain all the other assets that I'm going to have on my page. As soon as you create the div, insert div, it prompts you to give it a name. And you want to make sure to create a new CSS rule. I'm going to go ahead and create a new CSS rule. And generally for, if it's going to, the CSS would be the engine of your site. So I'm going to call this CSS main. And I'm going to go ahead and save it. And here, the width should be the same as the files that you're building in Photoshop. So for example, the width is 955, you want to make sure that the width is set to that. The height, for now I'm going to put it 600, but later I can change it to percentage, or just leave it blank. But for now I'm just going to leave it as it is. For just so that I can see the actual box, I'm going to give it a color, but later I can go ahead and change that color. And I'm going to position, basically, there's a couple of things you need to change under box. I'm going to uncheck the margin, put the margin from the top and the bottom 0, and change the right and the left to auto. And the reason I do this is so that the page would center to whatever device you're using. I'm going to go ahead and say OK. I'm going to save my file, and if you look here, you see that the program already created my main CSS for me. Now what you want to do is to move the div, the closing div container down, and apply a comment such as closing container div. So that you know that anything that you're going to add to this page should be above this code. Everything should be above this code. So I'm going to go ahead and actually come back here, save the document, click somewhere in the middle. I'm going to choose Insert Div, and this time I'm going to call this banner or header, but for now we'll just leave it as banner. And this one should be, basically you want to make the height the same height as your logo. So the width is going to be 955, but the height will be determined by the height of your logo on your page. So I'm going to go ahead and choose main, and I'm going to say OK, and I'll choose box, put 955, and for this one I'm going to just use maybe 50. Change the background color to some other color so I can kind of differentiate it better. But later I can come and change it to whatever I choose. So I have it here. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this text so that I can just move this up And again, you see I have a paragraph tag here, which I'm going to go ahead and delete. And again, as you notice, what happened was my ID, for whatever reason, it was put below the actual code. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this code and just move it to the right place. So I'm going to move this down and move this up. So now I have one div, and again, as you can see, this is has its opening tag and closing tag. I'm going to move below it, and this time I'm going to make a gallery div. So another way that you could do this, you could just copy this code, move it down here, change the name to gallery, change this name to gallery, and now from your CSS rules, you can actually just create a new selector. So this is a different method. So I'm going to go ahead and click plus, and this one I'm just going to get rid of the container, so that just have the gallery option. And now I'm going to come back here and just choose width. Again, 955, and the height I'm going to just choose 500. Again, this should be determined by the pictures that you're going to have on your website. I'm going to choose the background color here, and I'll choose maybe another color. And as you could see, automatically they've updated. So I'm gonna go back here. Oh, the height, make sure if you want it locked, make sure it's locked to pixel. So there we go. Actually, that's too high. Maybe I'll just do 450. There we go. Actually, maybe 350. Okay. Now I have my gallery. So I'm gonna go ahead and put below it again. You'll see that this is everything. I just can copy paste the code for faster results. So here I'm just going to move it so it's nice and organized. You could see that the banner has opening and closing div. Now I have my gallery with opening and closing, and now I'm going to do two more. I'll do one for the text. Actually, I'm going to do one left and one right. So I'm going to do left, and then I'm just going to call this left. And basically I'm going to make sure that it's here. And now I'm going to actually there are two things that I need to add here. Let me just go back down here and make sure that, I have my container banner gallery. I'm going to go to a selector, click plus, and this time I'm going to just make sure that it's has left option. So you want to get rid of everything else that's in front of it. And then I'm going to make this one, instead of making it 955, I'm going to make it maybe 450. Now this, and I want to shift this to the left. So I'm going to make it 450, and I'm going to make the height, the width, okay, I'll make this 450. Make the height maybe 300. Again, I can go back and change this based on my needs. I'm going to change the background color to some other color so that I can identify it easier. And I'm going to also align it so it's sitting on the left hand side. So full under position, I'm going to float it to the left. And I'm going to actually go back up here. Maybe I'll make this shorter. Make it 350. There we go. So now if I click save, maybe also shorter. There we go. Better. Now if I save, if I preview, you can see that I have my left div, I have my banner, I have my gallery, and now I'm going to add 2 more items. And my container div appears to be too short. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to come back here and I'm going to disable this. And there's a couple of ways you could do this. You can either disable it, or we can, for now, maybe actually I'll just add 800 to it. So now I'm going to come back and click inside the container. So don't click on the left. Inside the container, and now I'm going to add another. What I'm actually going to do, I'm going to copy this code again, come back and paste it. This time I'm going to call this right, and again I'm going to go back to my selector, make a new rule, call this right, and then make this maybe 300 by 200, and change the background so I can see what I'm working with, and then align it to the right. So float it to the right. So I could see that based on the width of 955, I can actually make this larger. So you can modify these, or maybe 600. See that now I'm going to save, and if I preview, you can see that I have my left gallery, my right gallery, information that I want to put on the page or the images, and here would be my live navigation, and here I can either make it shorter, or I can put textual information and so forth. And one last thing that we need to do is to add a footer. I'm going to open this up, and again I'm going to copy this. So the copying and pasting is probably the easiest way, and this time I'm going to call this footer, and I'm just going to call this footer. And now I'm going to come back to selector, click media, get rid of the P, get rid of the container, and again, the width should be the size of your document. The height would be, for now, we're just going to do, let's say 20. Background color, I'll change it to some other color. And again, for this one, the footer needs to reside at the bottom of all the other divs. So for that to happen, we need to clear both. And if I come back here, I'm going to delete this text. And there's some, the reason why this is doing this, is sitting above it, is because I actually increased the size of my container. So if I go back and if I just disable this, you see that the footer now is all the way at the bottom.